moving on to Nigeria, a very strong performance yesterday. We've seen the market weaken over the last 2 weeks, but yesterday, of course, we saw the brewers and, of course, a few petroleum marketing companies leading the market higher. We saw the NSE index gain 1.4%, closing at 33,351 points. Joining me in the studio to discuss the market is Akinola Jones. He is head of financial advisory at Primera Africa. Thank you so much, Akinola, for joining us. And like I did mention, it seems the bulls are back in Nigeria. 1.4% gain yesterday. Your thoughts on where this market is headed?
I think it's headed up. We saw with the release of the results, we saw the breweries picking up. Guinness did, 5% top line growth year on year. The company is focused on development. It's going to spend about 50 billion naira on capex, and that's Guinness. And Nigerian breweries too is faring well. The oil and gas companies are doing well too. I think the banks, once they all start to release, you're going to see another rally when that happens.
You think we're going to see? You don't think it's priced in already in the banking space?
I don't think so. I see. So I think UBA is going to release pretty good results. We know GT is. We know some of the banks are going to do pretty well. So we see definitely there's some upward potential in the banks. We've seen that happen in the brewery sector. We're going to see it in the banking sector. We're going to see it in a couple more sectors.
Well, of course, that's assuming that we don't get any negative surprises. But let's move on to some deal flow across Nigeria these days. But particularly in the private equity space, we're seeing fairly strong interest in the e-commerce space. The likes of Konga.com, Jumia, getting significant investment from Naspers and Summit Partners. Your thoughts on the flows we're seeing in the private equity space these days?
I think we have to go back to a couple of months ago. We saw JP Morgan and Millicom invest in Jumia. We saw last week Naspers taking a 50% stake in Konga. And we saw Summit Partners putting an additional 26 million in Jumia. It really starts with our population. What are we? We're 165 million people. Most of the retail space is informal. I think about 93% of the retail space is informal. And they are capitalizing on that. They're capitalizing on that market. They're going to face a couple of challenges, of course, such as sourcing, payments, delivery, and just the general internet network and just the infrastructure in this country. But as we move along, there's definitely a lot of opportunities, and we're going to see a lot of competition just in the general retail space. So you go from a company like ShopRite, you can see how they've grown and how they're continuously growing across Nigeria.
Of course, also announced plans to expand. That's ShopRite, of course.
Exactly, and then Spar Group, you can see how they're growing in Nigeria. So in the retail space, there's a lot of opportunity, and you can even move on to personal care products. If you're moving on to the fast-moving consumer goods, there's a lot of opportunity in that space. We're going to see a lot of private equity investments also in cosmetics, in just the entire chain of personal care products and fast-moving consumer goods. We're seeing a lot of just food and beverage. We're already seeing some activity there when it comes to just people diversifying what type of food and beverage brands they're going into. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of things happening in this space. Our 165 million people population is getting everyone excited. And
I don't remember the figure of how much FDIs we got last year, but do you think that we're going to see a lot more, especially into moving into companies like Jumia, Konga this year compared to last year? It seems like a very exciting place to be these days.
Yeah, it is. It's all about management. It's all about putting the right structure in place. I think people when they see value, they're going to invest. Once you set up the right structures and put in the right checks and balances, you're going to get there's a pool of capital out there looking to find the right investments.
And it seems
that's the key.
Investors are not deterred by the news around
terrorism
and all of that.
And
so
things of that
Nigeria really looking interesting these days. But moving on to the oil space, it seems that is a no-brainer. We will continue to see investments there, right?
Yeah, we will. But the key issue is always the petroleum industry bill.
Right.
Once that's ironed out, we'll continue to see investments, and we will continue to see investments with or without. But once it passes and more local companies are empowered, people are going to have to do some kind of joint ventures. Even if it's just for some of the technical capabilities you're going to need to build your business to that global level. So that there's a lot of interest there too.
I always like to ask financial advisory people this question: your thoughts on the IPO market? Of course, the hope is that some of these will translate to listings on the NSE at some point. So your thoughts on what we're likely to see in terms of the IPO space this year? I think at the beginning of the year, some people were a bit cautious about that, but we've seen the market rally almost 20% year to date. There's a sense that consumer company valuations are pretty rich, so maybe it's about time some people try to try to sell shares at a discount to the market price. Your thoughts on what we're likely to see?
Yeah, you know, the IPOs will happen. They might not happen
This year.
This year, I'm still very doubtful on it. But you know, as the market continues to pick up and regulations, the SEC tightens on regulations, makes sure it just boosts investor confidence. I think the IPO market will pick up this year. It's a little too close to predict.
But why do you say that? Is it that because of where valuations are, or just
it's
confidence factor?
It's just a confidence factor. I think valuations.
The retail investors are not really there now. It's more institutional. It's more foreign.
Exactly.
So it's perhaps not a good time. Is that the argument?
That my argument. It's an investor confidence. It's a building process, you know, and it will happen. It's just if it's going to happen, it takes time. People just don't wake up and say we're going to do an IPO. They meet. You know, you have to feel what your valuations are. You have to do some kind of private placement round. You have to start feeling for that. And we're in the market, you know, we're seeing that, but it's going to take, you know, some months. But it will happen. It will happen very soon.
I think when it does happen, it seems the market will have definitely turned the corner, and hopefully it's only going up. Thank you so much, Akinola Jones, joining us for a good discussion around Nigeria's market.